Hey guys, we are back with another episode of According to Allie. Today, we're going to get a little bit nostalgic. Are there any things from your childhood that you miss? Any things from your childhood that you really loved? Well, this is the episode for you. Some things I remember from my childhood would be Silly Bandz. That's probably why I like wearing so many bracelets today. I had a stack of Silly Bandz, right? Every single animal, shape, color you can imagine I had. And what I used to do with my friends is we used to trade. So if I had a Silly Band that I didn't really like, I'd trade it with somebody else. But we had stacks of these things, right? Like stacks of them in middle school. Silly Bandz were so underrated, but they were so much fun. Other things I remember, of course, Poptropica. I loved Poptropica. One of my friends put me onto it, and I just loved all the different missions. My favorite island, because Poptropica was a game, and you would create a character and there were different islands, and each island was a different mission that you would have to complete. So my favorite island was Reality TV Island. Basically what it was is you start out being in a motel, and then you sent in this application, you got on a reality TV show, and it was almost like a Survivor-esque kind of reality TV show where you'd have to do challenges and be voted out, etc. Loved it. That was my favorite island. One of my other favorites were Spy Island. So you were a spy and you had night vision goggles and stuff, and you were trying to solve that mystery. There was also Time Tangled, where you go back to different time periods. You'd be in a Roman gladiator time period. Then you'd be in ancient Greece, different things of that nature. Absolutely was obsessed. I loved Poptropica. I don't know if any of you out there watching ever played, but I was obsessed with Poptropica. My favorite of all time was Club Penguin. Undebatable, unbeatable. I was obsessed with Club Penguin for years. I loved Club Penguin so much that I learned a cheat code to become a multi-millionaire in Club Penguin. I was one of those people, okay? Homie had a deluxe igloo, and it was decked out to the nines. You name the season, that thing was decorated incredible. Summer, spring, fall, Christmas time, I had Christmas trees set up and gifts and presents, and it was a winter wonderland vibe. Fall rolled around and it was leaves, and it was cute and fall-esque and beautiful. Same with spring and summer. I think I even made a pool at one point, which was really cool. So yeah, you could say I loved Club Penguin down. Other things with Club Penguin, I always had a Puffle. I had every single Puffle color imaginable. I had pink, green, blue, black, orange, red, any type of Puffle you could think of, I owned. There were some times where some of them ran away because I went on vacation to Disney at one point and I forgot to take care of them, which was my fault. So a few Puffles ran away. Give me a break, okay? I was only 8 years old. Other things I loved about Club Penguin is my penguin was decked out. She had every single outfit imaginable, bikinis, jackets, boots, coats. I even took her into the theater and dressed her up as different characters when different plays would come out. So that was a big thing with me as well. You could also change the color of your penguin. So my penguin was brown because I wanted her to be tan. Being from Jersey, you gotta be tan, you know? So I had her as a brown penguin and I dressed her up all the time. I had sunglasses for her, different purses. I'm telling you guys, anything you can think of, this penguin had. She was real life Hannah Montana. So I absolutely adored her. My favorite part about Club Penguin was being an agent. So you could be an agent in Club Penguin and go on these secret missions. I was obsessed with going on the secret missions. Some of the missions that I could remember were there was this one mission where it was the case of the missing Puffle, and you'd have to find the missing Puffle, and it'd give you clues, and you'd have to go through this whole thing. Basically, to become a secret agent, it was inside the ski shop, and you would go in, and it would be after a certain number of days of being on Club Penguin, you could be an agent. So I would do that all the time. I loved all the different missions. There was a polar bear in one of them that was evil, and then there was this evil crab, and there was this one mission with the iceberg. It was just so cool. I loved doing that and being a secret agent. Other things I loved were ice fishing. So you could actually go ice fishing. It was in this attic kind of cabin-esque thing right near the ski slope in Club Penguin, and you could go in and you could go out the back door and you could ice fish. I was so obsessed with it. I caught like that big redfish like so many times, but the little yellowfish, it was just like fun. And then like the shark, it would like steal your bait and you would have to like get a fish in order to catch the shark. Club Penguin was so much fun. Mandy May 9, that was my username. I was absolutely obsessed with Club Penguin. And I made so many friends on Club Penguin too. It was just a fun vibe. And then people would also throw like igloo parties that you could go to. So like they themed their igloo parties. So people had like a jungle theme, or Total Drama Island was a thing at the time. So people would make like a Total Drama Island in their igloo, which I thought was so cool. So like theme out their igloos to different things, which I thought was awesome. Other things that I loved were Webkinz. So what Webkinz were is you could buy these plush animal toys and it had a code on it and you would get online and go and join Webkinz. I was obsessed, okay, with Webkinz. My first Webkinz was this Webkinz named Sandy. So she was a polar bear and I actually dropped her out on the playground, and my playground growing up at school had wooden chips on it. So she got kind of dirty. So she was more of like a light brown color. But I was obsessed with Club Penguin. She was my first one. And you would redeem this code and like you could play as Sandy, like on Club Penguin. So I would play as like my polar bear on Club Penguin. And I had like 20 different Webkinz. The other ones I can remember is I also had a tiger, which was pretty cool. So I'd go on Club Penguin and my first thing was always like the Wheel of Wow. So what the Wheel of Wow was, it was this big wheel and you could spin it. I believe it was once a day. So you'd spin Wheel of Wow and it would like land on something and you get like a prize or something of that nature. It was so much fun. And then also I loved the mine. So what you could go in with the mine is you'd go in and mine for different gemstones. And it was so much fun. I remember one time I mined this really big gemstone that was like super rare. And I actually screamed. I was like, oh my God, I'm rich. This is awesome. I can't believe I just like did that. So Webkinz was definitely a lot of fun. So other things that I remember from my childhood were SpongeBob, of course. I will forever remember the SpongeBob theme song. It's like, who lives in a pineapple under the sea? SpongeBob SquarePants. I'll never forget that, right? SpongeBob was so funny. There's one episode that I frequently think about. It was when he was delivering the pizza and it was like so windy and he was like walking like this and like everything was flying backwards. I'm like, that's me once a week in Hoboken with the wind. Like that's literally the story of my life. Other shows that I really liked were Zoey 101. I remember that theme song too. It was like, ooh, loved it. I thought college was going to be like Zoey 101. She had like her little key and it was like pink and then she had the white polka dots on it. I'm like, oh, that's going to be like my college experience. We didn't have keys when I went to college. We just had the swipe cards. So I was like, oh, I guess my college experience isn't going to be like Zoey 101. That was something I really loved. Other shows I loved were iCarly. I know Jeanette McCurdy has come out with a lot of books and done a lot of acting roles since then. I will always know her as the girl with the Buttersock from iCarly. That was so iconic and so funny. And I'll always remember that about her. Other things from iCarly were they made this like spaghetti dish at one point. I think it was called spaghetti tacos. That was funny. But of course, I remember the theme song for iCarly too. And iCarly was a show about like a bunch of kids and they had essentially a podcast, but it was like a live podcast. And that was like the basis of the show. And like Freddie was behind the camera. And then it was Carly and Sam were in front of the camera. And then they had Neville, who was like the evil one. And that was like their enemy. And he tried to hack their podcast. So there were a lot of cool things in that show. And of course, they had Spencer, the older brother. But I loved that show too. I was like glued to the screen when it would come on. Other things I remember from my childhood, Hannah Montana, of course, I wanted her closet so bad. Like, you do not understand. I would see her revolving closet of clothes and be like, I need that. Like, you'd go into her closet in the show in Hannah Montana and you'd press it and just the clothes would like come by, kind of like how at a dry cleaners, they like come by you on the little conveyor belt. So that was a thing in Hannah Montana. And the clothes would come by you like they were in a dry cleaner. What was your favorite show though? Those were a few of mine. I also watched the Hannah Montana movie. I was obsessed with that as well. But those were some of my favorite shows growing up. Do you have any shows that are your favorite shows? Other things I remember were childhood toys. So I always wanted a Bratz doll growing up. I used to beg my mom for a Bratz doll. I'm like, please, 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 can you get me a Bratz doll? And she always said no. She's like, no, like, I don't want you to dress like that. Like, you're not getting a Bratz doll. Funny enough, when I got older and started going clubbing, I actually dressed like a Bratz doll. So she didn't really do much there, sorry. But I always wanted a Bratz doll. I loved Bratz dolls. Other things were Tamagotchis. They were these little things that you could like put on a keychain, and it was like a little pixelated character. It was in black and white. It would come up and you would like feed it and like play with it and stuff. I think mine actually wound up dying because my brother like messed with it one day and then it wouldn't turn on. I was just like, oh, okay. Other things that I loved, the Wii. So I made a TikTok about this, but my dad actually went out and got us the Wii. He waited on like this hour-long line to get us the Wii, and we were obsessed. I loved tennis, but the thing is you would have to have the Wii like in your hand. So it was like a remote controller pretty much, and you would have this wrist thing and you have to like tighten it to your wrist and you'd be like swinging it. So there were a few times where I was playing tennis and I didn't notice my brother walking by and I accidentally like hit him with the Wii, and I felt so bad. I was like, I'm so sorry. So I loved Wii tennis. I also loved Wii boxing, but I would play against the computer and there was this one bald dude in Wii boxing and I would never win. And I actually still have beef with him because every time he would win, and it was so infuriating and annoying. I'm like, why can't I just win one time against this bald boxer? Like, really? So other things I enjoyed were I had a Game Boy and I had a Nintendo DS. So I had my Game Boy first and it was red and it was like a little square and you'd flip it up and you could play like different games on there. So it was like a little card and you'd insert it into the Game Boy or Nintendo DS to play different games. I loved Nintendo Dogs because it'd be pretty much like this. So you'd like flip it up and you can play like this. That's what it was for the Nintendo DS, but I was obsessed with Nintendo Dogs. I had a Labrador at the time on Nintendo Dogs. I don't remember his or her name. I think it was a girl, but obsessed with Nintendo Dogs. One of my favorite games. And I was so happy to get upgraded to Nintendo DS from the Game Boy because the Game Boy was just like so small. And I got a Nintendo DS for Christmas and I got it in pink and I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I got it in pink. Like, I was hyped. You don't understand, hyped. Other things I remember as a kid where I actually used to play Call of Duty all the time with my brother. Growing up with a brother only a year younger than me, we used to play games together a lot because we'd only be really hang out with each other. So he'd be like, oh, like, want to play Call of Duty? So we play Call of Duty together. And we did this thing where we do like riot shield battles. So it was split screen, obviously, but like I couldn't look at his screen to like cheat and see where he was. So we'd be running around, and it was always the Rust map. We'd be running around the Rust map, and you couldn't use like any weapons of any kind, and you would have to like off the other person with a riot shield. So you'd have to like check them with the riot shield. So we'd be like running around trying to find where the other one was. That was pretty funny. Other things that I remember from growing up, pillow pets. Pillow pets were a big thing. I actually had a ladybug pillow pet, and it would like lay flat like this, but you could like wrap it up and bring it, places with you. So I had a ladybug one. I absolutely loved it. I kind of miss having a pillow pet. I feel like it'd be convenient now for airplanes and traveling, but I loved my pillow pet. I also had Guitar Hero. So I was always the singer on Guitar Hero. Like, I never wanted to play the guitar. I was so bad at it. My brother, though, he was really, really good at playing the guitar, and he was good at the drums. I was okay at the drums, but for singing, I probably sounded like a dying cat, but I just, liked it. I was, middle school was just fun, but that's how I actually learned who the Slash was. I would never have known who the Slash was if it wasn't for Guitar Hero. And I remember like seeing him on TV at certain award shows. I'd be like, oh, that's the Slash, of course. And my mom would be like, how do you know who the Slash is? I'd be like in middle school, be like, oh yeah, like that's the Slash. But Guitar Hero taught me who the Slash was, which was pretty cool. I was obsessed with the Littlest Pet Shop. So it was these little plastic pets with like bobbleheads, like giant heads and small bodies. I also don't know what it was with the early 2000s, with having like bobbleheads. It was a big thing in the early 2000s. But anyways, I had this giant head, small little body, and it was like these dogs and cats, and I had a collection of them, and I just like play with them all the time. But I was obsessed with the Littlest Pet Shop. I had a ton of them, like a whole bin filled with them. Other things that I remember were, of course, Monopoly. We'd play that every once in a while when it was like a rainy day. I would always be stealing money from the banker. Like when nobody was looking, I'd like slip like 200s over. I'd be like, yeah, nobody saw that. I'd also steal from free parking all the time. Yeah, I cheated at Monopoly. Okay, I was a Monopoly cheater. Other things that I loved. Oh, the iDog. You guys remember the iDog speaker? It was like white and then it had these little ears and it would like light up and play music and it'd like dance to the music. We had an iDog growing up. We also had Legos. So my brother was super big into Star Wars growing up. So we had a bunch of Legos and we keep them in these bins. And I'll never forget one time I was coming down to the basement and the Legos were out and I wasn't paying attention and I stepped on one. I don't know if you out there have ever stepped on a Lego. It was so painful. I was like, oh my God, I was screaming. So painful. Step in a Lego with no shoes, no socks on, barefooted. Lego, barefoot, do not mix. Do not mix. Barefoot and Legos, do not mix. It was awful. 10 out of 10, do not recommend. But we also had this Legos Star Wars game that my brother and I used to play. And every time we used to play, he's like, no, I have the lightsaber, too bad. And I'd be like some random side character. I'd be like Chewbacca or R2-D2 or just like some random ass side character. And he'd always have the lightsaber, which I was like, okay. But those were a few things I remember from growing up. What were your favorite toys growing up? Do you have any favorite toys from growing up in the early 2000s? Or what were your favorite toys? So now I'm going to see what questions you guys have for me. So if I go to the Ask Allie Anything segment, let's see. Okay. Would you date a father? No. Okay. Only had one question. Ask Allie advice. Let's see. My ex was obsessed with constant validation from girls on Instagram and was doing things behind my back. I'd asked him to unfollow some people I was uncomfortable with after getting back together, but he went behind my back and refollowed every single one of them. Overall, just proving he couldn't be trusted. He called me crazy and insecure, a true narcissist. Also, P.S. My ex follows the podcast, so hopefully he takes notes on how to be better. Girl, first of all, I'm so sorry. We've all dealt with a man like this at some point, or multiple. I just feel like he's not worth it because like he went back on his word. Yeah, no, I just feel like he's really not worth it. And like you said, he really can't be trusted. I would just cut this guy off. I wouldn't even give him the time of day. You could be using your time on so many other things. He just really doesn't seem worth it. If I fart inside of an Uber and the driver gets upset with me, is that on me for releasing it or on the driver for not accepting it as a natural bodily action? That's on you. Why would you want to fart in an Uber? Like the smell is going to linger. It's like farting on an airplane or farting in your car or whatever, farting in Uber. It's the same thing. Why would you want to like marinate in that? It's gross. I have no dating life. I'm a guy and I'm trying. I don't know where to start. Okay, well, I would start first with what are you looking for in a person and like write down some traits and attributes, even in like your phone notes if you want. So I would start there and then find somebody else who's looking for a relationship. A lot of people aren't, so you have to find that. So that's where I would start. Can we just jump to the OF phase? You know the reason people open your content. Well, nobody probably listens to you, which is why you probably wrote that question. And I find it disgusting. Okay. Alrighty, bye guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to tune into the next episode. Okay, bye.